Does Anselm's argument work? Well, you may have a slightly uneasy feeling. You may feel as if something a little bit suspicious has gone on. How did we get so quickly and so directly from a merely conceptual truth that it's part of the idea of God, that God is a thing such that you can't imagine a better thing, to the existence of God? It doesn't seem possible for us to have gotten from one place to the other without making some kind of error. And many people have felt that indeed there was something dodgy going on in this argument, although it's proven extremely difficult to identify exactly what that dodginess is. But as a way of seeing that the argument seems too strong, it seems that there must be some kind of mistake being made, let's consider the response that was given by an almost contemporary of St. Anselm's, the monk Gaunillo, back again in the 11th century. Gaunillo said, well, if Anselm's reasoning was good, then we could prove the existence of all kinds of other weird, crazy things. Consider this, the greatest imaginable island. Think about the greatest imaginable island. What would it have to be like? It would have to be an extraordinary island. It would have to have beautiful sands, beaches, and so forth. It would have to be the kind of island such that it couldn't be better in any way. We can certainly imagine such an island. So such an island must exist in the understanding. Now suppose that the island existed in the understanding but not in reality. So here it is, the greatest imaginable island, there in the understanding but not in reality. We're thinking about it, but it doesn't exist in reality. How great is it? Well, it's pretty great. I'm certainly imagining a pretty great thing myself. How great would it be if this island existed in the understanding and in reality? Well, that would be really great. That would be a really, truly great island. After all, if the greatest imaginable island existed in reality, then we could go visit it. We could take a plane there. We could run our toes through the sand. We could swim in its waters. We could just have a wonderful, wonderful time. It would be a really great thing. It would be a much greater island there existing in reality and in the understanding than if it just existed in the understanding. So what does that tell us? It tells us that the greatest possible island, the greatest imaginable island, can't exist just in the understanding. Because then we would be able to imagine something greater than it. But we can't imagine something greater than the greatest imaginable island. So, given that the greatest possible island, the greatest imaginable island does exist in the understanding, we're thinking about it right now, it must exist in the understanding and in reality. Let's take a second example just to really bang the point home. Let's take the example of the scariest possible creature. How scary is the scariest possible creature? Pretty scary. If it's a creature such that you can't imagine it and also imagine that it could have been a bit scarier than it is. It's got fangs, it's got slime, it's got all the scary features that a scary creature has, and it's got them in such a way that it couldn't be any scarier. There's no way of making the scariest imaginable creature scarier by adding a feature to it, because it's already got all those scary features. We can certainly imagine a creature like that. Okay, does it exist? Here's an argument that it does exist. Suppose the scariest imaginable creature existed just in the understanding. How scary would it be? Well, it would be scary. It would probably be scarier than most Hollywood creatures that have been thought of. I mean, I can always, for any Hollywood creature that's been concocted, I can imagine it being a little bit scarier than it is. So it would be scarier than the alien in Alien. It would be scarier than the shark in Jaws. It would be scarier than any of the manic psychopathic stabbers in any of those stab movies. It would be a pretty scary creature. But now imagine such a creature existing both in the understanding and in reality. Truly imagine it. What would it be for such a creature to exist in the understanding and in reality? It would be for there to be a slimy, many-clawed, many-knived, psychopathic creature wandering out there somewhere, looking to get you. How scary would that be? Very, very scary indeed. So, any creature like this that exists in the reality and in the understanding would be scarier than it would be if it were to exist just in the understanding. And what that means, of course, is that the scariest imaginable creature can't just exist in the understanding, because then it wouldn't be the scariest imaginable creature. But given, of course, that we can talk about the scariest imaginable creature and think about the scariest imaginable creature, and given that we're doing that right now, the scariest imaginable creature does exist somewhere in the understanding, so it must exist in the understanding and in reality. Now, I take it that you're not right now running around the room screaming, petrified by the thought that the scariest imaginable creature exists, so you haven't been convinced by this argument. The argument has gone wrong somewhere. But as I said, identifying exactly where it's gone wrong is a very difficult and tricky thing. And to do it, we need a much more rigorous understanding than we've been working with up to now of what an argument is, of what a good argument is, and of how to go about analyzing and dissecting arguments. And that's really the project for next time. We're going to try to develop an understanding of argument that will allow us to look in much more detail and much more carefully at arguments like St. Anselm's, and to understand what makes them good and what makes them bad, and where they're going right and where they're going wrong. And that's the project, as I said, for next time.